Detailed evidence from a woman who claims she was groped by Prince Andrew will be made public in the new year. Another bombshell for the royal family.
Johanna Sjoberg claims that Andrew groped her breasts while holding a spitting image puppet of himself during a party at Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion in 2001. Well, joining us now is royal commentator Michael Cole. Good morning to you, Michael. Why is this coming out now?
Well, it's because Loretta Preska, who is the judge in the case with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in Manhattan, has released this new information. This, of course, is the worst sort of Christmas present for Prince Andrew as he gets ready to occupy Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate for Christmas with his ex-wife, the Duchess of York, Sarah, and his children. It's a story which, of course, he cannot, and there we see him in happier times, get ahead of. As you say, this woman, whose name is Johanna Sjoberg, 22 years ago, she was 20 years old, she's now 42, she was a friend of Epstein, and she was brought into his mansion in Manhattan. And what happened was that Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the fixer and procurer for Jeffrey Epstein, brought down a spitting image model, a puppet of Prince Andrew, and perhaps we all remember them, with the enormously big teeth like tombstones. And she put it on the lap of Virginia Giuffre, Robertson at the time, as she was called, and put the hands of the puppet on the breasts of Mrs. Giuffre. And at that time, Sonia Sjoberg, she also willingly sat on Prince Andrew's lap, and allegedly he put his hands on her breast. And there we see a picture of Virginia Giuffre Robertson, as she was at the time, with Prince Andrew at the flat or house in London, in Belgravia, of Ghislaine Maxwell, who we see smiling in the background there. But even worse than this, of course, is the fact that the judge, Loretta Preska, is going to release on the 1st of January the names of 177 people who were associates, high-profile associates of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we've heard some of the names in the past. Epstein's ex-banker, Jeff Staley, has also been mentioned already, but there are other very high-profile names, very famous names in politics and in industry. So it's an awful, dreadful mess for Prince Andrew. As I say, he can't seem to get ahead of this story. It's like a piece of chewing gum stuck to his tennis shoe. You can't get it off.
Michael, really good to have you with us this morning. Just you and Sarah are royal commentators. I have this role from the outside, but I just wanted to ask you. We've heard, yes, Loretta Preska, the judge, is saying that can become public, that those names can become public, and it's Christmas, and we talk about PR and all that. This was 22 years ago, OK? And I think most people quite rightly have made their minds up about Prince Andrew. I wanted to put to both of you, actually, when he settled out of court, right, for 12 million or whatever it was, and we were told it was so his mother could just move on and everybody was happy.
Jubilee was coming up.
Platinum Jubilee, and that actually, in the end, of course, you know, you then wanted to get back to public life. I've always thought, and call me cynical, both of you, but do you settle out of court unless there is something that you don't want said? And I find myself thinking that 5 days before Christmas, having paid his 12 million quid, maybe what he wanted kept isn't going to be kept anyway. So whoever advised him, I think, yet again, not the greatest advice. Would you agree with that?
I think the difficulty for the Duke of York is he's always maintained his innocence, but he hasn't been able to prove his innocence because he's settled. Because exactly, why do you pay out? And therefore, he will always be tinged with this. And he will always, his reputation has been utterly destroyed by going through this process. And no matter what he thinks about being able to be rehabilitated in the public image, it's just not going to happen. No. Is it, Michael?
As you remember, in that car crash interview with Emily Maitlis, Newsnight, he said never met the lady, and he's maintained the position that he's never, not only didn't have sex with the young 17-year-old Virginia Robertson, he didn't even know her, and that is the position he has always maintained. So you say, as you say, Jeremy, why on earth do you give $12 million if that was the sum? It's never been actually confirmed but it's certainly a lot of money. Even after the lawyers had their bit, it was still a lot of money. Why would you do that if you were not guilty in some way? It's, as I say, it's a story he can't get ahead. That's why he can't come back into the royal family or have any semblance of the royal life he had, and that's why he's in disgrace. So his fateful friendship with Jeffrey Epstein continues to be an albatross around his neck, and I can't see it going away anytime soon.
And what about Virginia Giuffre and the prospect of her memoirs as well, Michael Cole, that is being dangled, you know, over him?
Yeah. She lives in Australia now. She's married, but she's showing no signs of giving up. Of course, these women say that they're campaigning on the behalf of other women who've been trafficked and abused in this way, and therefore we must support them. And of course, what went on was disgraceful. Ghislaine Maxwell is in federal prison, Club Fed, as it's known, serving 20 years for her part in all this. It's an awful, dreadful mess, failure of judgment on the part of the Queen's, late Queen's second son, and appalling for them all. But they'll have to face it up. The names will come out. I think there's a lot of men around the world, not just in America, who may be wondering what's going to come out, because they were friends with Epstein in earlier times. It was probably the biggest mistake of their lives too. But now they are going to be tarred to some extent, greater or lesser, with that particular brush.